I will forget that. So I know how stupid I am. So
Well, and we can do this again later. I mean, it's not the regular one. But so there we are on YouTube.
nice.
So it looks like that's all happening. Let's go back to Zoom. You can see if anybody else is going to join in.
Live streaming.
Yeah.
Yes. Alvin is on.
Yeah.
She's just figuring out her audio system.
Yeah.
Audio connection.
Right.
No.
Is this a book you grabbed here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen this. I've been wanting to actually read that for years.
Straight into his house and open the doors.
Oh, right.
You know, we just, something in my order.
Okay. Right. I think I need to share the slide. Morning.
Hey, with what, on Zoom you're talking about?
Yeah.
Do you know how to do that? On Zoom?
I think I'm about to ask Todd.
No,
about-
I can tell you how to share a slide on Zoom. I
Yeah.
can tell you how to share screen, but yes, if you're welcome, like,
Right. I think
There he is.
sharing is all right. So I'm supposed to share my PPT with on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird balance. Like sometimes I will leave just the camera on and so people can see, but then yes, once you start the actual talk, you can share your PowerPoint. At some point, you'll want folks to see the discussion, maybe. I don't know.
There's no real rules about it.
Oh, somebody's tuning in.
Patricia. Okay.
We can sit together this time.
What?
Oh, don't let
I'm
me.
moving.
Yeah. Whoa.
No, but okay.
Would-
This way, okay.
To get rid of that so that we can see the people.
All right.
Just get rid of that.
Wouldn't stop sharing.
You do or don't want video on? No, I don't want them to see me.
Hey, we can hear you.
I don't want to make it only see the speaker.
No way. I wanna
Speaker.
make sure.
So what have you got it on? I just made a difference. I either haven't made the speaker big rather than everyone being little.
Debbie.
Right. I'll hear them, but they won't hear me. We'll stick your headphones on and then.
Voice is Debbie.
Right, well, I didn't look.
No, do you want to mute it?
No, it's Jen.
Yeah, I made her look.
We did.
All right. So it's 11:10.
Oh, 10?
11:02.
Thank you.
So I think I'm starting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Starting.
I'll just see if my phone says anybody is nearby.
Like, good.
Yeah, exactly.
So good morning, everybody over there. It might be butchering your name, Hao Wen. Okay, and Patricia joining us. Yeah. So I'm just gonna dive into it. I've got my slide shown. Okay.
this gonna be okay?
Yeah.
With you guys? Sure.
They got this under control. You have to walk in and take over.
All right.
I'm didn't see it. Oh,
Three techies here already.
So, welcome guys. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah.
6 people, including me here. And this is going to be my first doctrinal class to give you, and I'm actually excited
Good. Good way to be.
because this is, one of my favorite subject in the heavenly doctrines, and I wrote my dissertation on it. So yeah, and there's a lot to it, and I'm gonna begin with what you're seeing here. If you look at this slide, can you notice anything that's weird or sticking out?
Bones or whatever those are.
You sort it out, they are bones.
Ribs.
Ah,
ribs.
ribs.
Yes, they are
I was
ribs.
thinking about it. Yeah,
Alright.
ribs. Right.
And they have to do with my subject. We'll see how they.
Yes, right.
So yeah, my subject is what is the human proprium? What a huge word, right? The human proprium. I mean, probably most people out there don't know what that means.
Mhm.
So that is the thing. So why do we bother to know when it looks so weird? The word itself looks weird, but when we look at the heavenly doctrine of the new church, this word appears more than 700 times.
How many?
700 times.
Wow.
And
Okay.
if we count adjective form of this word, it's gonna show up probably a couple of thousand times.
Wow.
So there's a lot to it. And the problem is we really don't notice that. So I think I'm probably sure that you've run into this word, right? Proprium. I kind of want to start by asking, like, what's your thoughts? What is the first thing that come to your mind? Oh, proprium.
Like ego.
Yeah, ego, right?
Bad side.
Bad side, right? Yeah.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, so one of the major questions we can have, so what does actually it mean? Definitely this is a unique term, not only as a concept, but also as a terminology. And this is a really unique and even abstruse concept. Hello, Cliff joining too.
So of course, sorry. Don't try, man. I'll tell you what, it's canceled me. How is everybody? You doing okay? I'm sure the vicious animals. Oh dear. Anyway.
And I can tell you this is so unique and abstruse because a couple of people have to write a book about it. How about that? So is this book familiar with you?
Yeah, I haven't read it, but it is familiar.
Oh yeah. So this book I think was from 1940-ish.
Wow.
This book was written by former Bishop George E. Charm in 1935-ish.
Wow.
So probably about 100 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is a really nice treatment on this subject. This
Not as
is
good as your dissertation, but yeah.
yeah. I was consulting this book. Right, you're right. And there's a lot to it. This is about like probably 57 pages.
Okay.
But what we're gonna cover this morning is just a piece of the whole subject. For example, by dissertation, I had 5 chapters, and what I'm gonna cover is about 1/3 of my first chapter. So really, there's a lot to it, and I haven't gotten hold of that book, but there are books and dissertations.
Intriguing subtitle.
Yes, right. For what of man is not his own?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Certainly.
certainly.
A forgotten book. Forgotten books. Like,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yep. So I'm gonna give you a brief rundown on what I'm gonna do, present to you. So part 1 and part 2, I don't think I'm gonna make it to part 2, but part 1, I'm going to briefly discuss, talk about what this term mean, and I'm going to give you some, what American or English translations thoughts about it, just tossing them around, and there are some characterizations of this term found in the writings. So we'll see what they talk about it. Yes, this part maybe I'm pushing it up to another time. So when Swedenborg uses or wrote this, used this word, he wasn't just making things up. As you pointed out this morning, there is a basis with this idea that we can found from the literal sense of the word. And for example, dry bones or rib or the flesh of man, those languages in the word, they refer to the human proprium. Yep. So yeah. And I'm going to dive into what Reverend John Potts has to say. And are we familiar with this guy?
Heard the name.
This minister?
Not much.
Potts is the guy who does all the green book translations.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
all your
Going back a long way.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Concordance.
yeah.
Right,
Same
right,
guy.
right. This immense volumes of books. And actually he did not translate the Arcana Celestia. He was the primary reviser of the book. He was revising the 6th or 7th English translation of the Arcana Celestia. This is a footnote from Arcana Celestia 131. And I need a volunteer to read it for me. Cliff?
Oh, okay. The Latin word proprium is the term used in the original text that in this and other places has been rendered by the expression own. The dictionary meaning of proprius as an adjective, it's one's own proper, belonging to oneself alone, special, particular, peculiar. The neuter of this, which is the word proprium, when used as a noun, means possession, property, also a peculiarity, characteristic, mark, distinguishing signs, characteristic. Some of those words give me too much. The English adjective own is defined by Webster to mean belonging to, belonging exclusively or especially to, peculiar, so that our word own is a very exact equivalent of proprius. And if we make it a noun by writing it own in order to answer to the Latin proprium, we effect a very close translation. Just goes to show you how a lot of our English words come from Latin. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a really good catch.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things I'm going to point out. And there is indeed a lot to it, but these are not everything. There are more to it. So, but note, these languages here. Oh, by the way, giving you some more background here. So this is a footnote to, Secrets of Heaven 131. And why does it do that? Because this is the first place that this, in the original Latin, the word proprium is ever used for the first time. And he was smart enough that this word is tricky. And he was kind enough to give us this information. And as you can see, the word proprium, not the human proprium, the word proprium has to do with these words, peculiar, particular, one's own.
Yeah.
And I have brought them down to like this. So as an adjective, this, as a noun, this. And I think when we lay this out this way, we might have an idea of, okay, what proprium mean, right? This is used when it refers to something is peculiar to someone or something.
Right.
We're on the same place, right? Then, yeah, this is the subject. So then what is the human proprium? We can put it down like a person's own, one's own, a person's own characteristic, or something or that which that belongs to a person. And I think we're getting there. And Bruce Rogers would translate this in a person's inherent character. Yeah.
Okay.
Then how do the writings characterize this word? In the Heaven Doctrine, the word can be just used by itself, proprium or proprium, but there are other places where they characterize this word. And one of the common thing that we find is the first one. The human proprium is nothing but evil and falsity.
Yep. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch on that first. And the second one is unique part. And I love that part so much, but we're gonna get to that in a minute. So this is from Secrets of Heaven or kind of Celestia 210. And I'm just going around. Yeah.
What is the proprium? The human proprium consists of everything evil and false that gushes out of self-love and love of the world. It involves people believing not in the Lord or in the Word, but in themselves. And they're imagining that what they do not grasp through sensory evidence or through facts does not exist at all. They become, as a consequence, nothing but evil and falsity.
Thank you. Yeah. I love this first part of Genesis and in Arcana Celestia, because when we dive into it, probably I should say this later, but I just want to highlight the human proprium is nothing but evil and falsity, because people do not believe in the Lord, in the Word, but in themselves. And that's exactly what happened to the most ancient church people. And that's how the whole proprium started going down or being corrupted. It's a fascinating point there. But moving on.
Hang on, I'll add a little bit for you. Is that so? What strikes me on this one is, and they're imagining that what they do not grasp through sensory evidence or through facts does not exist at all. Okay, so that's a standard materialistic type point of view, right? I can't see it, can't touch it, smell it, whatever, it doesn't exist. But what gets me is they become, as a consequence, nothing but evil and falsities. I mean, it's just it's a huge thing to say about someone. Oh, this person doesn't believe in a spiritual existence, right? There are a lot of people in the world today who don't believe in anything after death. They become, as a consequence, nothing but evil and falsity. Just feels like a huge weight to put around somebody. Oh yeah, look at this person, you know.
Or does it mean that the facts are nothing but evil and falsity? Is it the people?
Yeah, I think people, maybe they are matching.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Can I use a good example of that very quickly? I saw some, oh, sorry. I saw something on the net where these woke people come up, a young person in the States has said to this guy called Cliff Nietzsche, his name, but he's with OTLE, they're working together, you know. And when he was in the street doing his street preaching, they said, look, the Lord Jesus is just a myth, it's all made up, blah, blah, blah. And the guy had a good comeback. He said, what, do you believe that Julius Caesar existed? Do you believe that George Washington existed? It's all written down. It's all written down. It's history. It's all written. It's written down. There it is. People saw it. And I said, I wrote back to him. I said, mate, that's a good one. That's a good one. But that's what it says. Like, you got to think outside the square, eh? In other words, with this. You know, like, or if I can't smell them, I've never been to Iceland either, but I know it exists because it's, you know, I mean, I said that to Blake one day, you know, I said, I've never been to Iceland, mate, but I know it exists.
Have you ever loved somebody?
Yes.
Show me.
Oh, like that. That's a good one too.
Where is it? I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Give me a plot of love. That would be barbecue sauce for that.
yeah, exactly. Yep, there you go.
We can organize that.
All right, I'm sorry. Go back.
No, you did well. No, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you did well.
Yeah, and as you can imagine and see that there are a lot of other numbers that, you know, essentially it speaks the same statement like this. And Murray, would you like to?
For human being is nothing but evil. He is one massive evils, and his whole will consists wholly of evil. I've been shown by actual experience that a man or a spirit, even an angel, regarded in himself, that is, as to his entire proprium, is a vilest excrement.
Yes.
And left to himself breathes nothing but hatred, revenge, cruelty, and most filthy adultery. These are the things that are his own, and are the things which constitute his will.
When we pass on, does the Lord get rid of that stuff? He gets rid of that, hopefully. Does he get rid of it?
Well,
Yeah,
even an
yeah.
angel,
Yes, he.
I have some. I don't want it. I know one.
He'll move them aside.
Oh, thank
Yes,
God.
that's
it says even an angel regarded in himself.
yes. That's a good catch because I underline that because I mean this is really I don't know what a statement it is and this is true. But the important part is, you know, we are talking about the human proprium. And when the writings use this, you know, word proprium, there are a variety of range of the term. There's a spiritual proprium, which is a barely used celestial proprium, heavenly proprium, and even hellish proprium. So and what's really important from this passage is a man or a spirit and even an angel regarded in himself. We are just talking about the bad part, the evil part of a human being. And this human proprium is what belongs to us. But we are here in this passage, we are leaving out all the good parts and all the good potential that the Lord is in charge. So when we are talking about the human proprium, yes, it's vilest excrement left to himself, and these are the things that are his own. But again, we haven't talked about the good parts that we have. Yeah, so and this points to our corrupted will. And I am saying this because there was a time in the church history that we weren't, or the human race wasn't that corrupted yet. Anyway, and the human proprium is nothing but evil, but also falsity. And there's this deadly duo between evil and falsity. They feed each other, they marry each other. And this is just gonna briefly move on here by saying so. But please note that this, red words here, it favors his own thing. It favors his own intelligence. Yeah, it doesn't talk about truth or good or anything that come from the Lord. So these points are corrupted understanding. Yeah, this is pretty much on the same point.
Nice image.
I love images. And it's hard to find an image like this, but these days it's pretty easy to produce this kind of image using AI. So I asked ChatGPT to give me an illustration of a human's inherent character that's nothing but evil and falsity, and this is one of the images here.
Nice.
And another image. But I wasn't happy with this image because this, in a way, makes a human being as something like the devil itself or Satan itself. And according to the teachings of the church, that is not the case. But when we look at the human side again, yeah, it might looks like this. This is the most heinous potential that we can become. I'm going to put it that way. So I've got series of questions here. Then why is human proprium that way? Did God make it that way at first? Does it support the conventionally held idea that we are fundamentally evil by birth because Adam disobeyed? Or if it's not, how has it, the human proprium made become as such? Is there anything that we're missing about it? What is to be factored into our broader understanding? And this is just some facts about it that can add to the bigger picture here. And heredity evil in play, and then we can talk about it probably for hours. And everything that's evil and false. So here's the thing. Let's say when we are just born now, let's say we are a baby. Is our human proprium really merely sheerly evil and falsity when we are a baby?
No.
Yes.
Well, potentially.
Yeah, potentially, you're right. We are born into this vessel of life, which can become either good or bad, or become some sort of a mixture of both. We are born into all the different tendency toward every kind of evil and falsity, but when we were just born, we are not that way yet, but we have this tendency. And because of the tendency, the teachings of the church would describe that a human being is nothing but evil and falsity in terms of its potential or potentiality. The next part is the bigger problem here is as we grow, as we live our life, we kind of pull things toward us. As we are doing some bad things in our own will, we make this potential evil as our actual evils. And that is how we make ourselves actually something evil. Yeah. Yeah. Right. At birth, but yeah, we can say that our program hasn't so much arising that is yet to be developed in one way or another. Yeah, and that is one of the bigger picture here. And yeah, this is an important passage that speaks to you know what the role of heredity is in you know characterizing our human proprium that way. Yes, and this is a little tangent, so I'm gonna move on. So the human proprium, we can, you know, it can generally mean a human being's own characteristic by heredity or by actual evil, and or this is, you know, our own innate nature, or this is anything. This is just anything that can be said to belong to us. So I've got the first thing done, and the second one, a sense of self or independence. And Jen was kind of surprised, oh, you know, by the fact that the word proprium is like out there in the writings that many times, but it is because sometimes English translator translate the word proprium into different things like a sense of self or independence. But in the original Latin, it is proprium. And I think I'm gonna ask first, what is a sense of self? I found this this cute image. Huh, you know, this is a moment of, huh,
I'm here.
all right. A sense of self. What is that?
Well, mate, when I was, but just quickly, when I was a little kid, I was living in Surrey Hills. I was about 5 years old. I remember looking at we lived in a very old home, we had much furniture, you know, that we were working class people. We had a big mirror like that on the wall. I remember I was a little kid, I walked past and I went, I had a self of, hang on, wait a minute, that's me.
right.
I remember that at about 5 years old. I just looked in the mirror and I went, well, I became aware, you know, well, I exist.
I know what you mean. I feel like I had a similar.
Yeah, you know.
Around 6 years old or something.
You know,
like
and then, you know, then I used to, you know, I'd go behind the mirror and I'd look at, I never forget that. That was a big, it was a big thing. Sorry, mate, I hope you don't mind me.
No, it's just, you're just on the right spot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's right there, because a sense of self is like, huh, I am here. I exist. Yeah, I can feel, I can think, and whatever I'm doing is actually me doing. Right. That's a you know, sense of self. And like, so I briefly told you, when we're just born, our proprium hasn't really much arisen yet, because there's no conscious of ourselves yet. Yes. And but what about a sense of independence? Sense of independence.
Yeah.
Are these two same thing?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Mm.
Because you can be, well, no, let's say that. Well, you can be self, but you can still have a tie to God, I guess. You know, and others.
Oh,
Isn't that what this is? This
right.
goes to, like, what I think of is those of us who've been here longer, which is everybody but you, where it was around for, I wrote some articles on psychedelics a few years ago. And one of the common things people say when they're on a psychedelic thing was how they realized how connected they were to everything, to other people, to the plants and the planet. They rediscovered this, that they didn't have the independence that they thought they had.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Does a sense of self have to come before a sense of independence?
Yeah, I think I'm seeing, along with that line. So a sense of self is like, yes, I'm here and now, and I exist, an autonomy. So as we're going back to the earlier part of Genesis, actually it treats the development of Proprium, and we might say, yeah, at first it was a sense of self. But as they progress in a little wrong, crooked way, now it wasn't just a sense of self. It was autonomy or independence they wanted. And independence is like, so when we have this a sense of self, we can still be connected with God. We can still put God on the top of everything. Yeah, there's the connection, but independence, a sense of independence is more like, you know what, but I kind of want to do it my own way. I want to credit myself more. It's more self-centered around, in that sense, growth. And that's, I would say, a sense of independence. Yeah, so yeah, right. And yeah, sense of self. I think I just already said. And please note, so I try to make a distinction between the first characterization and the second characterization that I'm talking about, because when the word proprium is used as a sense of self or independence, it isn't used to mean evil and falsity yet, but there is an allusion that, for example, back to the most ancient church people, Adam and Eve story, there is this thing. They started desiring a sense of self, and that was the beginning of evil. So there's a connection, but it isn't the same thing yet. And as we look at these numbers in the earlier Arcana Celestia, the term is used to signify their desire to live for themselves, to think, speak, act from themselves. I think that has to do with a sense of independence, rather than a sense of self. So here we go. This is the Eliot's translation. So he usually most of the time, translate the Latin word proprium into proprium. And I actually sympathize with his choice. I'm a translator. I've for years, and I came up with my Korean word for proprium, and it took me 7 years. And it took me 7 years.
Wow.
I had like 4 different candidates I used, but I finally got down to.
That's good.
Yeah.
You didn't just call it proprium? You didn't introduce the word proprium to Korea?
In Korean, it's much more weird, so I didn't use that. Yeah, but this is a new century edition, and the translator used the word autonomy. And I'm not saying I'm whether I'm agreeing or not, but I'm just saying, that word can be translated into autonomy.
But from what you're saying, proprium includes more than just autonomy.
Oh, yes.
And so therefore it's not a great translation if there's more to proprium than just autonomy.
Yeah, I really get it. And past translation would say they strove for their own.
Yep.
And because this word is so inclusive and broad, and I think a translator can use his discretion to narrow it down to this kind of word, but I'm thinking if he or she actually contextualize the whole thing into this word, then there's this weird dance around it, and for me, I'd go for this, just my preference,
Yeah.
or Potts translation.
Well, in defense of the NCE, just that one of their goals was to leave no Latin words anymore. They determined they would find an English word for everything. They weren't gonna leave anything like proprium there. And, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
get that.
it's tricky that there isn't an English word that means it. So, but, and I hear what you're saying about it not being a tongue.
And I don't wanna, maybe you address this later, but have you looked at ego as a substitute for proprium? Do you talk about that in this class?
I found one result on my New Search for research. There was one, one time proprium used for ego.
Mm.
It was Dole, George, not George Dole. What's George? Yeah, his translation in Divine Providence. So it was once used only.
Do you think it's a good word to use? Or, I mean, you still prefer proprium.
Ego or self can be used when it speaks to, even proprium is used to refer to love of self. So when we're looking at this bad part of a human being, we might say ego, depending on this context. So yeah, so it's tricky.
Yeah.
The reason one of the reasons I'm talking about this subject is because it's tricky. It's, as I said, it appears a lot of times in the teachings of the church, but do we actually know about this?
Right.
So, and this is another example. This is from True Christian Religion 658. I think the upper one is Chadwick's translation, and he would translate proprium into a person's self, which totally makes sense. And this is Jonathan Rose's translation, and he would say sense of self.
Mhm.
And I actually prefer, in this context, Rose's translation. If you read this part, to the end of it. Yeah. And now moving on.
And just so notice, it said in the second one, the first time we are born, the self is evil.
Yeah.
Evil babies.
Yeah, this is Swedenborg
Hard to believe.
saying.
Look at
Mine
that.
weren't equal.
No.
They are now, but they
Yeah,
weren't
yeah,
then.
fair enough.
Yeah, so it's really kind of annoying sometimes because does this statement actually endorse the Christian idea of total depravity? We are totally kind of, I don't want to say this word, but we are totally screwed up, right? And it seems like some of the passages like this make that case. But we often find Swedenborg doesn't say the whole a lot. He might go on to say, but I'm saying this because of considering the human heredity evil, and it's like he's spreading this bit and piece here and there, and we kind of need to combine them together to make sense to what really he tried to say in that bigger picture. Yeah, is one of those places, this TCR passage. Anyway, moving on. So what is the human proprium? I'm gonna just say there are two main things. One, a human being's innate character, and occasionally, depending on the context, it can mean a sense of self or even a sense of independence. And I kind of want to, I've got a few more slides on this part. This is another translator's note, and this is from Reverend Bruce Rogers. And I'm just going to go here to address where this source is from. So this is taken from Bruce Rogers' article, General Church Translation. Why are we doing this? This is published in 2011, and I think he said it right here. I think it was Lori's turn.
Oh, I get to read.
The first.
And finally, the word proprium. Here is another word frequently heard in the church, and I suppose people have a general idea of the meaning, but it is not a word found in standard English, and yes, it can be translated. One summer years ago, I made a detailed study of proprium as it is used in the writings, and sorting through the defining passages, I discovered the following 5 related meanings.
5 related meaning. That's a lot, and 3 of them are basically self. So self here, self. But because in English word self, it can mean a lot too. So he kind of breaks the word down into 3 categories like this. Yes, and not going to read through, but again, I'm trying to draw our attention to 1.A. There is this part, sense of autonomy or independence. And please note that there is this word, apparent independence. What does that mean?
Apparent, yeah.
Apparent. So the tricky thing about this subject is, and in Divine Providence, Swedenborg talks about this part, apparent independence, and George Term, he really hammers that down in here. And the concept or the theology, the doctrine on the proprium is tricky because it talks about the reality versus the appearance. Maybe it rings a bell for with Todd. So it's tricky. It is super tricky, and I can talk about it later.
With that down there too, so the Lord. So we are told that the Lord alone has proprium. Okay, but in our sense, it's a negative thing. But with the Lord, it's his. But I can't understand that.
So yeah, so this is the one. Yeah, thank you so much for pointing that out, because I am a little opposed to translating the word proprium, ego or self, or without differentiating it from time to time, because the word proprium can sound it sounds like a bad thing, and the Lord alone has proprium. The Lord alone has ego. So it sounds bad. Yeah, and if we look at those passages where it is said this way, it usually says that the Lord alone has life. He is alone life. So in that context, we can figure out what actually that means. And yes. So we can read through. I think we got it. So so the proprium is again nothing but evil and falsity, but considering our hereditary evil in play, and considering the fact that as we grow, we acquire evil and falsity to ourselves, and a sense of self or independence that can be used, for example, as referring to the most ancient church, or are as if of ourselves engagement or apparent autonomy, which is another subject I can talk about later. Actually, I'm kind of wrapping up here. It's a heavy subject, and I kind of want to, okay, this is enough. So how do we make sense out of it, or how do we strike the right balance? And this is a direct quote from George Cham's book, page 15, and I think it was Todd's term.
Okay.
we are prone to think of man's hereditary tendency to evil as if it were the man himself, and therefore that man is born evil. Also, we are apt to take for granted that the proprium of man is always evil, and this is also far from the truth. Man can receive influx from heaven as well as hell. The good which inflows from heaven can appear to be his own, but not to be called to be his own program, just as the evil that inflows from hell can appear to be his own.
Yes, maybe I caused some confusion, but the what is in the
Brackets.
yeah, that's my word there. Yeah, so this
The good which inflows from heaven can appear to be his own, just as the evil. Okay, yeah, I see.
it's not his own. It appears to be his own. It feels like, oh, whatever the good parts, whatever the you know life the Lord gives us is, oh, it feels like it's us, but it appears to be. So it is not really human proprium, this good part. So there are two different parts that is with us, that is not us. Yes, and I think, yeah, I think my calculation was right. You know, we were just one turn. It's your turn.
Hey, well done. Strike the right balance. It is the Lord's will that a person should appear to have life in him or herself. And this appearance is what is called the proprium. Without this appearance, a person would have no free choice, no power of judgment, and thus no responsibility. Without this, he could have no sense of accomplishment or delight of use.
Yeah, this is pointed out in Divine Providence too, and it's rarely mentioned, so we don't really get to see the doctrine really say this. But this is, I mean, as much as this is unique, this is super important. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I have a bunch of things that I can say, or share, but next time. So, oh yeah, I think this is really the last part that I have, and it's my turn. Human proprium is something bony or dead in itself. This is from Arcana Celestia 149. The human proprium, when viewed in heaven, appears like something that is wholly bony, inanimate, and very ugly, consequently as the being itself dead. It is a mere dead thing, although to him, I like this part, it appears as something and indeed everything. Whatever lives in a person is from the Lord's life, and if this were withdrawn, he would fall down dead as a stone. For a person is only an organ of life. What a fascinating passage here. Yes, but you know, I probably could have a little brighter part. Okay, the human proprium is bad, but you know, there's this bright part.
Yes.
Which,
Give us some sunshine and rainbows.
yes, which is described by Eve, a beautiful woman. How about that? So there's a wonderful thing about it, and I'm intending to go on there and discuss later. And that's what I've got, and part 2 coming. I was discussing with Todd, and it seems like part 2 is coming, obviously, but it's going to take some time. I've got another 30 slides here, which is meant to be the whole, you know, different things, but
Yeah, we were discussing how like, okay, well, part 2, sure, but I'll be doing class next month. And then December will be a Christmas class. January there won't be class because of camp and all. And then February, March might be journey program if you guys do that again. And so
Yeah,
we
right.
might get the next part in April or May, something like that. And you can
Just review this one again.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly what I
Start
said.
over.
Because you've forgotten everything we talked about last time.
Maybe we need to squeeze another one in somewhere.
Don't we have another class next week?
No.
The monthly.
Oh, a month, okay.
Yeah. So because the subject is my favorite one, I've paid attention to it for 7-8 years, and now I feel like, oh, I'm getting finally I'm seeing it right.
So I'm noticing that Highland's video and audio is now working. We can see her now.
Right.
Oh, Helen.
Hello.
I've heard from her for a long time. Hello, Helen. How are you?
The Highland, do you have any comments? Anything you want to throw in at the group here?
Probably just one, and that is that we are told, and it's in the doctrine of life, that if man shuns evils as sins, he develops a heavenly proprium. So I don't think that was covered adequately, but that's one of my favorites. That we can get there.
Right, I think that was bait for next part is, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
A good cliffhanger.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, right. So Howard emailed me about those passages,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was thinking, but that's kind of that's the ultimate like story of it,
Right.
and I was dwelling on the whole, just not I wasn't going this whole thing over, but I was thinking about the early part of Genesis and how, because it really speaks to the evolution of proprium going up and down.
Mhm.
And but after all, the whole plan and design is that the Lord wants to have this heavenly proprium from our life. And the point is that happens when we shun evils as sins against God. And yeah, right. Thank you for the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patricia, was the audio fine? Did you hear everything?
She's on mute.
Yeah.
Right.
So that we don't hear her.
Right.
You're on mute.
Oh, that's right. They're the things there, yeah.
She stayed connected, probably.
Yeah.
And that means our routers are still working good.
Oh, right. All right.
They didn't flash up unstable connection to us.
Nice. So I think by what I'm leaving here with you is something hopeful. Even if we don't get it all. Again, it took me years and years to really sort this out, and we can come back to this one. And this has to do with, this is one of the fundamental teachings, the doctrine. It has to do with the Lord and our regeneration, everything. It is about what we are, yeah. So I'm looking forward to sharing this later. For today, that's everything I have for you guys.
That was very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I think we are taking off, and for those joining online, Alwyn and Patricia, see you next time.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.